Hey guys, Attorney Walter Hnot. Now I am super epic tired. I had to wake up at 6:30 this morning. I actually got to go to bed around 2:20 last night, and that's because I turned on the TV, and that's never a good idea because I have HBO Max. Now, with that said, I had a hard time figuring out what I thought would be the absolute best Social Security benefit out of all of them. And there's a ton of them. Like a lot of people don't even realize they even have a website that most people, I didn't even know they had this website until I was clicking around. There's this website where you can just enter in info and it will literally tell you which programs are potentially available to you. I didn't know that. So ssabest.benefits.gov/benefit dash finder. I didn't even know about this. I didn't know they had this. So once again, ssabest.benefits.gov/benefit-finder/, and literally you can input your information. It's a .gov website, and it will tell you which which programs, which whatevers are available for you. So I thought that was really cool because I was doing a research thing. I'm making a video of every single Social Security benefit that's available inside the Social Security Administration, because it's not just the classics. The classics are like RSDI, Retirement Survivors Disability Insurance Benefits, or SSI, blah, blah, blah. It's not just those. There's so many more. There's special title ones, 301s, there's DACs, there's widows, divorced widows, there's all these things. So I had a hard time, and I spent time thinking about this as to which one of these represents essentially, right, the absolute best benefit from the Social Security Administration. Spent a lot of time on it. I was sitting on the idea that retirement, the big bad, right? Everybody wants to use retirement benefits, right? Everybody wants to. We all know it's not SSI. SSI is like the benefit of last resort. It's like I got stuck with that one, right? So I was thinking retirement, that's clearly it. And I was like, but maybe that you got to work for that one, right? You got to put the time in for that one. So as a result of that, it was one of those things where I was just like, there's got to be a better one. So then I started to realize the really, really good ones are where you basically get something that you didn't actually have to do anything for, right? And that was one of those things where I had this realization that there are some Social Security benefits where you don't actually have to do anything to get more money. So then I realized, then we go to the next step. Okay, well, which are the ones that, potentially you could get something, but you didn't really have to do something? So then I looked at essentially disabled adult child benefits, because I was like, okay, look. If you are essentially between 20 or 18 and 22, and you can prove that you were disabled during that period, you could potentially not just tap into SSI disability benefits, you could potentially tap into adult child disability benefits, right? Or we call them disabled adult child benefits, DACs. And that's where you get to tap into your parents' benefits to add on top of you receiving disability benefits. And I was like, man, this is good. I really like this one. This is a good one. Maybe this is the best out of all of them, because you don't have to do anything. You're just disabled, and your parents worked their whole life. So, when they vest, you can tap in. I mean, that's a pretty good deal. That's a really good deal. Okay. I thought, all right, that's not bad. That's not bad. But then it happened. And then I realized the biggie. I realized the big tamale, which in my opinion is the absolute, and I mean absolute best one out of all of them. And I didn't even think of it. It didn't even come to my mind. All right, so here it is. Now, remember not to insult anybody. I'm going to be doing this from the perspective of how the Social Security Administration usually references it. Male versus female. The male dies in this equation, right? Because males usually die before the females in a relationship. AARP even did an article on it where they had the male die. So I'm going to do this from the perspective of the female survives the male, okay? Not trying to insult anybody with this dynamic, but that's kind of the basic thing. All right, here we go. There is a program that is absolutely incredible. And it is, in my opinion, the absolute best, because you really don't have to do anything to go ahead and inherit higher benefits. They're called surviving, divorced, spouse, Social Security, benefits. I know. Yeah, no, serial killer. I see. Yeah, you said I shaved. Yeah, I had no time, so I took the thing, right, and I forgot the plastic piece, and I was like, oh, and then yeah, I had to do the whole thing because I would have looked like a pirate. So, anyways, here are the elements that they provide from the Social Security Administration's website for surviving divorced spouse Social Security benefits. Here we go. If you are the divorced spouse of a worker who dies, okay, you could get benefits the same as a widow or widower, provided that your marriage lasted 10 years or more. So if any of you ladies out there are like in year 9 and you're like, I can't put up with this guy, maybe squeak out just a few more months on this thing, because this is a really amazing benefit. And I'm not advocating in any way. I'm not advocating in any way that you should stay in a bad relationship. But if you did, there's some benefit to it. Let me tell you about it. Okay, so benefits paid to you as a surviving divorced spouse won't affect the benefit amount for other survivors getting benefits on the worker's record. Think about that. You could have a lot of people taking from this one person who's passed away account, and it doesn't affect those other people. So this is a very powerful, big money pull benefit. Like, this is like, in the Harry Potter Book of Spells, this is one of those ones where they're like, we should hide it in the special library. All right, here we go. If you remarry after you reach age 60, right? So you hit 60 and then you tie the knot, you Beyonce, you put the ring on the finger. Right, okay, we got that. Or if you remarry age 50, after you reach age 50, if you have a disability, right? So 60 if you're not disabled, 50 if you're disabled. The remarriage will not affect your eligibility for survivor's benefits. So basically, just to clarify here, you could essentially, and I know this is crazy, this is amazing, you could essentially be married to somebody for 10 years, get a divorce, right? And then not remarry until you turn 50 years old in one day, or 60 years old. It was just actually 60 or 50 years old, but 60 years old if you're not disabled, and 50 years old if you are disabled, right? So let's say you're disabled, you're married to a guy for 10 years, and then you wait to get married, and you turn 50, and boom, Nevada, you're in the little chapel, right? That means you can tap into that person's benefits, that which you were originally married to and then divorced. Now, if you get remarried before that, before 50 if disabled and before 60 if not disabled, then you lose out on these. So there's some elements here that make it so that you can't get them if you do the wrong thing. Now, if you are caring, here's another element, very important. And then we're going to do the ARP article, and then we'll do the phone calls. If you are caring for a child under age 16, okay, so 16 and younger, or, this is an or, so it's like we just ignore what we just said and we now go to or who has a disability, so it's a disabled child, and the child gets benefits on the record of your former spouse, you would not have to meet the length of marriage rule. So the 10-year rule of marriage is out if you have a disabled child. That's taking from the deceased spouse benefits. The child must be your former spouse's natural, so born directly from that spouse, or legally adopted child. Now, look, I'm going to say something. I don't want to offend people with this, but the bottom line is, when I started to really go deep into this, all I could think of was a country song where the female met some like rancher and he was abusive and she stuck with him and, blah, blah, blah. And then boom, she got divorced. And then she didn't get remarried for a while, or she had his kid and the kid was disabled. Whatever. The bottom line was, this is a country song right here. That's what this benefit is. If you're wondering what it should fit into, it's Cheyenne, Taiwan, or just any female. I can't even think of a country song singer's name right now, but any twangy name, that is the song for this. Now, I'm going to go through the AARP, article. I want you to understand a little bit more about how this specifically works because it is incredibly important. And at the end of the day, I want you to keep in mind one thing. The reason why this one is so good is that somebody could not have worked much in their life. They could be a spouse that just didn't do much, right? When it comes to working, financially, earning, etc. And then they could potentially tap into somebody they divorce benefits for retirement and have almost like this windfall of having a much higher retirement benefit. And they don't really have to do anything other than not remarry before they're 60 or if they're disabled before 50. So to me, this is like, it's almost like a card game with how this one works. It's so brilliant. It's like a Magic the card game, a Yu-Gi-Oh, a Pokemon, or whatever. It's almost like a card game. If you know how to play the cards right, you basically get to have a significantly larger, potentially, if the husband was a worker or if that wife was a worker and they deceased, you get a significantly larger per monthly benefit. Now remember, it's not stackable. You're either getting yours or you're getting yours plus whatever their additional one was, okay? But you don't get their full one on top of yours. It's you take yours, you take whatever their extra one is, and you slide that over. All right. This is directly from AARP. Can I collect Social Security survivor benefits when my ex-spouse dies? Okay. You qualify for survivor benefits on the work record of a late ex-husband or ex-wife if the marriage lasted at least 10 years. So we got that. We know that one. You are at least 60 years old or 50 if you're disabled, or you are caring for a child from the previous marriage who is either under 16 or became disabled before turning 22, in which case there's no age or length of marriage minimum, right? So under 16, disabled before, essentially, which we'll call it 22, the whole 10-year thing disappears, right? The 10-year requirement. You are single, or if you have remarried, you did not do so until after you turn 60 or 50 if disabled. So the key is, guys, if you end up finding somebody that you love at first, that's my doggies, then you find out you hate them, which happens a lot. It happens a lot, right? That's okay. That happens. Then just if you're at like 9 years, maybe last a little bit longer into 10 years, maybe just wait until the kids get out of high school kind of gig. And the point is, you can tap into this so long as you do not remarry. Now, I want to point out something that's very important. What is defined as a marriage? What is I love that. Walter, you need to change your SpongeBob shirt. This is actually a really nice shirt, by the way. Thank you for that comment, but it's a very nice shirt. So here's the deal. When you look at what the definition of a marriage is, there's all these weird options, right? Technically, the state is supposed to define it, but the feds, they've got all these little caveat rules as to things they consider to see if you are truly married. So if somebody, like the actual true spouse of this person, that the person died with, if they want to contest that they don't think you should be able to get benefits, right? Because that's what a smart spouse would do of a deceased, spouse. They'd be like, no, I don't want this ex-spouse getting benefits. Not that it really hurts them, but if they just wanted to hurt the ex-spouse, they could do that. Then they could show that ex-spouse was dating somebody in a manner in which it looked like they were married, living together, shopping together, holding themselves out as married. And then the federal government would have to make a tough choice as to whether or not that ex-spouse had actually remarried, because they have all these little rules to go ahead and dictate whether or not somebody is likely, basically in the practice of being married. All right, now, next thing. As with widows and widowers, waiting until you reach the full retirement age, right, the FRA, for survivors, currently 66, gradually rising to 67 over the next several years, entitles you to receive 100% of the amount your late ex was getting from Social Security when he or she died. If the deceased never claimed benefits, right, so if they never tapped the benefits, you will get what he or she was eligible to receive. In most cases, claiming survivor benefits before you reach full retirement age reduces the amount of your benefits. If you are caring for a child from the marriage who is under the age of 16 or is disabled, remember that, under 16 or disabled, you can receive 75% of the deceased ex-spouse's benefits. That's a good deal. That's a really good deal. Now, if you have already claimed Social Security on your own, you can still apply for survivor benefits, but you will not receive both benefits combined. When someone qualifies for two benefits, Social Security pays the higher amount. So that's what we were talking about before. You can't stack them. You can only look at the two. Yours is here, his is here, or yours is here, hers is here, and then you just slide over the extra. Okay? Keep in mind, this is still from the AARP article. If your late ex-spouse took reduced benefits by filing for Social Security early, so like let's say that they took it 62, right? You may qualify for the highest possible share of those benefits, like if they were 66 when they took their benefits. That is the highest possible survivor benefit before your own FRA, right? Before you actually reach your full retirement age. So you could potentially tap their benefits, right? You get the highest share of that potential benefits before you even reach your full age capacity for your FRA, which is your 66th, 67th year. If this is your situation, call the SSA and see how basically it'll work out for you financially. Now, survivor benefits paid to you as a divorced spouse do not affect payments to the late beneficiary's widow or widower or to other former spouses. I mean, in theory, there could be a lot of prior spouses that could try and make a claim to this scenario. I mean, it depends on how much somebody loves marriage. I seem to be allergic to it because I'm my age and haven't got married yet. All right, so the point is, we're going to get off that topic real fast. The point is, this to me is the most powerful of all the Social Security benefits because you get a giant boost after moving away from somebody, after moving completely out of the spectrum of that person. And tied to that stuff, usually the child can get additional benefits too if you had a child with that person. So it's a lot, it's a chunk of money, even though potentially you divorce this person. So to me, that's just absolutely incredible and absolutely strong. Now, with that said, I want to go ahead, I'm going to put the phone number in here. We can go ahead and begin taking phone calls. I did go ahead and miss one. Guys, also let me know, I'm using this newer system. This poly, it's like it's almost $400. It's a webcam. How do I sound? How do I look? Let me know if it's good. If you don't like it, I can always switch to the other one. We got a caller coming in. Here we go. Okay. Hi, Attorney Walter Hnot. We are live on YouTube. Please remember to go ahead and use a fake name throughout this process. Also, would you like me to run hearing questions with you, or would you like me to answer a specific question? Go ahead.
Well, I had a couple of specific.
Sure. Yeah.
Say you're on. You want to be a history. For that matter.
I mean, here's what I'm hearing. Is the SSA part of a ticket to work program that you could opt into as a trial work period under that ticket to work program? I mean, technical, I don't want to use that terminology because that's usually a 9-month thing, but is there a trial where you could basically go ahead and test the waters? I'm sure the SSA would love to set up a job internally where you could go and work with them, doing some sort of function with the Social Security Administration. Yes, if you work with them, you are working with the people you just contracted to get employment with. And yes, they have to follow all the federal regulations that are more specific for government jobs for those who are disabled. And yes, who are disabled get a significant boost in the likelihood of being hired for those federal jobs. So would they be likely to set up a job for you at the SSA in a ticket to work program for a 5-year contract under Title II SSDI benefits? Yes. Is that risky? There's some benefits and negatives. Benefits, they're going to tell you exactly what they want. They're going to have great training programs to get you up to date. They're going to have a lot of systems that will help you get to where you need to be, and you could probably get a lot of accommodations out of them. And you're in higher preferential hiring because you're disabled, and the government pushes that. But I guess what I would say is this: at the end of the day, the thing about joining the SSA to work with them, well, there's another thing too that you need to realize. The SSA does not usually fire people. So like if you wanted to get a job and you were on SSDI benefits, that's a pretty safe place, because unless you do something epically bad, unless you do something epically horrible, it's unlikely that you will be in a position where they'll fire you. So to me, yeah, I mean, it's a good shot. But then at the same time, your life is under heightened scrutiny. Well, no, it's actually not, because during that 5-year period of that ticket to work program, they're not allowed to put you through a CDR. So you're touching, the safe base on that baseball field, because you're contracted with them not to get a CDR during that 5 years. So you get to keep your benefits, and you get to keep basically the check that you earn at the Social Security for 5 years without facing the repercussions of a CDR. So yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, it's probably a good deal. Probably a good deal.
But in terms of when you say keep the benefits from the SSDI, wouldn't those benefits come to an end as long as I'm exceeding SGA after the 9-month trial work period ends?
No, because if you go into a ticket to work program, you sign a 5-year contract where you're allowed to earn as much as you can. And the whole idea of it is that it's set up, it is created with the idea of you working your way out of disability benefits. So yeah, I mean, you could try and get a job at the SSA and do the trial work period for 9 months. But ultimately, if you're looking like real long term, you're going to need the ticket to work program, because you're going to blow through the 36-month extended eligibility program that comes after the ticket to work program, because you'll just earn above SGA, which is the 1,350. So the bottom line is you got to do a ticket to work program. So my suggestion to you, go, call the local field office at the SSA and ask them to send you the contract for the ticket to work program. I haven't done a video on the contract because nobody sent me a current one. And the reason why is when everybody goes in to do that, they sign it and then the SSA grabs it and pulls it away from them. But if you can get the most recent contract, I mean, the one I saw was like 2 or 3 years old. But if you can get the most recent one, I'll do a video on what's included in it. But bottom line is, ticket to work program, that's going to be your ticket to working at the SSA, earning as much as you can for 5 years, and being immune from that CDR.
So you're saying if you
Correct. That's why you don't want to. That's why you can't use the extended eligibility program, because the problem is, if you're working for the SSA, you're going to beat, $1,350 per month very easily, which means you're just going to lose your benefits. That's why you have to go into a ticket to work program, so you can get both your income and your benefits at the same time, even if you're earning $1 billion a month, as opposed to, a dollar over $1,350 or a dollar below it. You get to go ahead and keep both. You can earn basically as much as you can at the SSA while keeping your benefits. The whole point of it is it's a carrot program to get the disabled off of disability benefits, and it gives the person 5 years to create a career for them to move forward, to get away from being reliant on the Title II SSDI benefits.
Thinking about whether with that agency or the other agency. I think the more broader question, though, that I had been wondering about is, let's say you're in your mid-40s, you've been on disability for, 10, 15 years. I remember you said that after about 2008, it became a lot harder to get on disability. So let's say that one of my biggest fears was getting kicked off due to, a CDR issue, even if I'm not doing SGA. Do you think, when you think of the next 20 years, do you think it would be better to try to not take many risks and stay on SSDI rather than risk getting a job with, say, a private sector employer where you don't have as much job security, and then risking that, perhaps you may get terminated, say, 5 years later, and then be in a situation where you're still not age 50 and now you have to start all over again under the new rules?
So and just to summarize for people that are watching, you're not working for the government. Is it going to be hostile at a disability environment in the future where there's going to be more CDRs? The standards for being found disabled are going to be even worse. So potentially doing a ticket to work program where after 5 years you're kicked off. Is that a dangerous, thing to do with the potential of it being harder to get back on in the future? Is that kind of the gist of it?
Yeah, I guess that's the gist of it. And I guess, therefore, I'm wondering, do you think it would be better to try to stay on the benefits and not try to take a risk like that, or not?
All right. What are your top 5 most severe disabling medical conditions?
They're all mental health issues, but neurotic issues rather than psychotic issues.
Okay. So, all right. So, well, then that kind of answers the question relatively easily. The thing is, the mental 12.0s are always getting made more and more difficult to get onto. Commissioner Saul took a pretty big hammer to them. Commissioner Kijikazi is not expected to change them, but some of the other ones are going to be changed based off of the movement that was already occurring from Commissioner Saul. So the point is this, do you feel that, and remember, they get 6 years, right? Commissioner Kijikazi gets 6 years. Commissioner Saul's 6 years were cut short because Biden basically, said, essentially, I don't want you doing this job because of, you slowed down the output payment of some, those stimulus payments to the SSI crew. Oh, wait, hold on. Leanne, thank you so much for the $20 donation. I really appreciate it. That's awesome. Thank you. Oh, this is fireworks out. So, or a gun. Anyway, so the point is this, when it comes to, very excited. When it comes to the future, I expect, and remember, I could be totally wrong on this. So, with a grain of sand here, salt or whatever you want to do. The point is this, we are likely to see President Biden having a difficult time at the 2024 election because he has such a low approval rate. And a lot of the things that he said he wanted to do, he just was not able to deliver. A lot of the things that were pushed by the current White House administration, they got swallowed. Instead of passing better benefits for the American people, he's willing to spend billions and billions to basically create police force, IRS, agency tactics to get more money out of the average American. I mean, they're still not really going to get much more money out of the super rich because the super rich, they have lawyers and accountants working nonstop to cover all of their bases and utilize the law. However, the mid-income people, the middle class, they're going to drain them. They're going to hit them hard. Those, especially in the industries of construction. Like, a lot of people don't understand how construction machines are so expensive, and yet there's still people that make very little being able to afford them. And it's very simple. It's because a lot of the deals in construction are cash-oriented deals. And that's how they're able to build the cash, because they're not paying a lot of taxes on it. And as a result, then they get to buy the machines. Once they buy the machines, they can do bigger construction details, and then they grow and grow and grow from there. So that's going to really hurt the growth sector with this new bill that's coming out, especially for smaller construction-related projects. I looked at the bill that they're probably going to pass, and I was horrified by it. To me, it not only lacks creativity, but it's also moronic. And the reason why is that they're spending billions upon billions upon billions with the hope that they're going to secure money by sucking it out of the American people. So to me, it's almost like they're passing a bill where they have to pay their kid to go and mow the lawn, as opposed to finding money externally, like outside of the US, for other countries to buy products from the US. So to me, what they're doing is they're basically hoping to squeeze the American people more for money by taxing them significantly more to make up for the billions and billions and billions and billions that they're going to go ahead and spend to do it. This is going to be a tragic, tragic knife in the back of the Democratic Party. So Biden's already doing really, really poorly when it comes to the percentage of poll that people support him. And his ideas when going into office, very cool, very awesome. His actual actions while in office, not cool, not awesome. And so as a result of that, what you have is only the super extreme left still being very, kosher with him. But the left middle, the middle right, and then everybody to the right of that, it has folded away from, what the excitement and the superpower power, the rock star power of the White House's current administration, what they had prior to the presidency and then going into it. And not that they, if you look at the old videos of the parades that they put on, it's not, people didn't really partake, but there was COVID, so it was a whole thing. But if we are to expect based off of that, Republicans to, let's say, retake the Senate, because that wouldn't be hard. They don't need many seats. And then basically deaden the House or take the Senate and the House, because remember, they can force bills to pass without the president then. They can send it up, he doesn't sign it, then they can pass it again themselves and it passes. So at that point, if Republicans are in, I would expect it getting even harder and harder to get onto disability benefits. And I would expect, like the actions of Commissioner Saul under the Trump administration, that CDRs would be significantly more consistent. Right now, everybody's on like a calendar system. It's either a 1 year, 3 year, 7 year, 10 year, yada, yada. But the bottom line is people are getting a lot of CDRs. Yeah, someone's out there shooting a gun. But the point is this. Actually, I don't know if you guys know this, but my neighbor actually owns cannons. So he's royalty and he's a Shaw. So, that's pretty weird. But anyway, the point is this. If, for example, we had like a DeSantis or a Trump, then he would probably put another Republican type of individual specifically. Yeah, that's the cannons. Specifically into that agency position. So he would probably fire Commissioner Kijakazi, bring in another Saul type. I don't think he would bring in Saul again because Saul's older. And remember, Saul's like an older Jewish guy who made tons of money, has massive art collections, lives in New York. As a result of that, sorry guys. And as a result of that, he basically was very offended when Biden came in and just terminated him. And the reason why Commissioner Saul wasn't a good fit was because, come here, sweetie, was because he ran it like a for-profit business. He had and owned many businesses, including the Cachet store. Remember when you go to the mall and they had that Cachet store, which was high fashion clothing for women? That was his big ticket item. And he sold a lot of high fashion clothing for women. Wow. So the point is, and just so you guys know, the crazy thing about this is that directly outside the window in front of me, like that's beyond the computer, I can literally see a cannon shooting a thing off. So if any of you guys have neighbors that are so rich and he owns like a part of the island that's like an outlet, like it's like a whole outlet. So he shoots cannons off of it. But when you're that rich and you're literally royalty, I guess you can just do whatever you want. But the point is, Commissioner Saul, if he gets back in, or somebody like that under the Republican administration, you can bet that being disabled is going to become significantly more difficult. Now, there's one protection to you, which is that upon review in CDR, what happens is, there's nothing I can do about the dogs, but what happens is you have to go through what's called the 8-step sequential process, which is more involved than the 5-step sequential process than you normally would go through to be found disabled. And the 8-step sequential process relies on the rules that basically you had back in the day when you were originally found disabled. So let's say you were found, okay, so what year were you found disabled? And you don't have to give me the exact year, but give me a roundabout year. Okay, so in 2010, the rules were, pretty standardized for an extended period of time. And then 2017 came around and shit hit the fan. Everything changed in a huge way for some major, major rules. specifically weight of evidence rules. So as a result of that, the thing that you have to be aware of that's to your benefit is that, if you keep your benefits and they put you into a CDR, they have to review you at that standard. Like, what were the rules back then when you were found disabled around 2010? But if you give up your benefits with a ticket to work program after a 5-year working thing, then you will now be adjudicated using the 5-step sequential process, which means you'll be with the new rules. And so what you have to keep in mind is that those people who were found disabled before March of 2017, they're lucky. Like, I have a claimant literally with a hearing next week that was disabled. They did a CDR, kicked the person off of disability benefits, and now he went to a hearing, got a denial, appeals counsel remand back to the original ALJ because the ALJ used the new rules to adjudicate whether he was disabled. And under the new rules, this person that's been disabled for 10 years is not disabled. But under the old rules, the rules that were supposed to be used by this judge, right, he actually is disabled. So that's how massive of a difference it is. So you are correct to be scared about potentially giving up your benefits. And are they likely to make it even more severe and even worse for those trying to obtain disability benefits? Yes, and here's why. Everybody is rah, 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 screw the rich, they took more than their fair share, blah, 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 so on and so forth. But what they don't realize is that there's still a massive problem, which is the amount of people paying into the system. There's too few of them compared to the amount of people that are taking from the system, which means that there's not enough workers paying payroll tax and there's too many people that are on benefits. And so the reality is, even if you take this money from the rich, you're still running into the problem that we're decreasing at too fast a rate by not having enough workers paying in to go ahead and essentially replace the money that's being taken out. And so that's something I haven't really gone into yet. It's something I need to do a video on. I've just been super busy. I'm actually leaving to go up to New Jersey tomorrow to work on the family farm. So I haven't had a lot of time. Hence the whole shaved beard thing, because I didn't realize what I was doing, and then took the whole thing off. But the bottom line here is you should be afraid, because if a Republican gets in, they're gonna make it more like a business. The business will run more efficiently. There will be more benefits available to those who are currently receiving benefits, right? They won't be as fearful of losing benefits or having a reduction in benefits by the trust fund running out. The Republicans will make it solvent. That's what they do. But for people trying to get future benefits, they're going to make it extremely difficult.
Oh, and that reminds me, what would be the best states to live in to be able to be as protected as possible for these CDR people who are worried about these things? I know you said you were going to be doing a series of videos on that, but I was wondering if maybe if a sneak preview is like the best states, or for that matter, the worst states.
So I have the script done too. It's all on an Excel sheet, but the bottom line is this. Here's the major problem that I realized while reviewing all of it. The coolest state with some of the highest passage rates, some of the lowest CDR kickouts where they kick you off the benefits would be Honolulu or Hawaii. I think of it, but Hawaii, the chain of islands, would be one of the best states, right? One of the highest percent passage rates, but the problem is it's a blue state. And a lot of these blue states where there's low CDR or low CDR where they kick you off, right? Aggressive CDRs, it's just super expensive to live there. So when you look at these states that are like, really high percent passage rate states, they're usually blue plus one particular red state, which is Alaska. And that's because they're trying to attract more people into that state, whether they're disabled or not. So as a result of that, what you've got to realize is that, look, if you're a higher, if you're getting like $2,500, $3,000 per month from your retirement check because you worked and earned a lot throughout your life, then that's a potential option. You could potentially live there and have a really amazing life living on those beautiful islands. Or, I'm not saying move to Connecticut or Massachusetts, they suck, but it's just giant, it's crappy forests and basically giant highways and insurance buildings. But the point is, and there's a few nice spots, but the point is, if you were to go ahead and move, Okay, so another one, you can't move to Florida. You can't. It's going to become one of the most expensive states to live in. It's already on the way to being exactly that in most categories. A state that you would have to pick, in my opinion, if you're an SSDIer, and what, good sir, what is your current age, by the way?
Mid-40s.
All right, so you're mid-40s. If I were you, what I would do is I would move to Puerto Rico. That's where I would go. Restricted federal taxation there. It's much cheaper to live there. You know, you could basically go into the communities that are being built up right now. That's what I would do. It's still America in the sense of it being a possession. A lot of people there speak English. Most of the trust fund babies and most of the Bitcoin kiddos, you know, with their fancy, you know, watches are all down there because there's all these taxation limitations where they can buy land, not get taxed certain ways, etc. So they all went down there. So, you know, the coastline has become very, you know, poshy, fancy feasty kind of affair, but it's still very cheap to live in a lot of areas there. And that would be the best return on living investment. Now, some people don't want to go to Puerto Rico, and that's fine. Another place to consider that might be a cool place, although you have to be very careful because of crime, would be the Virgin Islands, U.S. Virgin Islands. Another place that would be potentially a good place to go would be essentially but here's the thing. Some of these backcountry-esque states have horrible health care. They've got some of the worst doctors, you know, worst hospitals, but they're cheap to live in, you know? So, I mean, what's important to you going forward? I'm assuming you don't want to get, you know, you're going to have CDRs, but I'm assuming you want easy CDR outcomes. And I'm assuming to some degree you want basically a safe neighborhood, cheap food, cheap housing, you know, decent transportation, low cost fuel, and essentially nearby hospitals, right?
CDR stuff certainly is a big worry because that could take away health care, could take away the source of income, and, you know, it would be a disaster. So I think you would mention that these videos, are you still going to do all the videos? Is it going to be 50 different videos in the different states, or just?
Yeah, it's that, and then there's also the possessions, because there's the little islands in the Pacific, and then there's Puerto Rico, there's the U.S. Virgin Islands, and then I also did the top 10 locations that people are likely to move into in the future. But one of the problems with that is that one of them has already become too expensive for most disabled people, even in the time that I started making these, you know, the notes for what these videos were going to be. So it's just like the problem is wherever it's cheap, it's not going to be cheap long, because people are realizing how incredibly important it is to move to these other areas. And the reality is South America, really cool place, but even parts of South America are becoming super expensive. And there's another issue too, which is that violent crime in South America or Mexico, it's pretty astounding how some of their governmental systems work and the bribery systems that exist. So you know, you have to weigh. You know, I mean, you could do the other thing. I had a claimant who called me yesterday or 2 days ago, actually, who told me all about how he was moving to Georgia, like the country below Russia. And he's like, the people there are amazing, and I'm really excited to go. And I was like, dude, Russia's taken over a piece of Georgia. Like, what are you like? Where are you gonna go? Why would you go there? He's like, well, it's super cheap there, and a lot of people speak English, and da 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 da. And I was like, but dude, there's a war going on, literally in Georgia, where Russia has taken over a piece of it. Like, what are we doing here? So, but the reality is, you know, he's going to do what he's going to do. But the point is, you're going to need safety above all else going forward. Safety not only from CDRs or bad CDR reviews, but also things are heating up again. You know, America and all these other countries, Earth as it spins, you know, you'll get a long period of peace, but then everything heats up and turns to shit because everybody has to learn their lesson again as to why we don't like using rockets and mortars and bullets against each other, because we end up with a lot of, you know, essentially people that have to be buried or potentially turned into ash and then their memories praised. But the bottom line is, every so many years, say 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, whatever, every so many years, we have to go through this as a human race to realize why we dislike war. So one of the key figures that I would like to add to your scenario is actual safety, and nothing is safer. Nothing is safer than even Puerto Rico, which is a possession. Nothing is safer than being in big bad America, because America is the final boss of NATO.
I wanted to say, within like the 48 states, what do you think would be the continental U.S.? What do you think would be the best bets for safety from like CDR issues?
So the first thing that pops up, I mean, you're never going to get away from CDRs because they're all on machine now. They're all scheduled out. So, you could call them up and find out when your next one's going to be, but you could just call the local field office. But what I would then say to you is, okay, what environmental restrictions do you have? Cold, hot, dust, loud sounds, vibrations, bright lights, blinking lights, pulmonary irritants. What do you have that triggers your impairments?
I don't really know that there's a specific environmental thing.
All right. So like I say, when somebody wants to buy a boat, go rent one. So go to the area, check it out first, and see if there's anything in particular that's problematic. Some people go into a really high heat area and they mentally overstress themselves, and boom, all of a sudden they've got headaches and they're screaming at people. Some people go to a really cold environment and all of a sudden, they're having new body issues and they can't physically move. They're having cardiovascular issues as well. So to me, you with the mental side, it could be anything. It could be the people are abrasive to you. There's too much wind and you feel like there's too much ringing in your ear. It could be anything. So what I would say is this: first, find out if there are any environmental restrictions to your ability to be in a particular geographic area. Then after that, I would look at financially what you can afford. That would be the best, spot for you to move to. So, all right, let me ask you this, if you don't mind answering it. What do you feel, or so how much do you get per month? You don't have to give me an exact figure, but roundabout, what do you get per month? All right, so that means you're limited. That means the high-end blue state, like Hawaii is out, Massachusetts out, Connecticut out, New York out, New Jersey out. All those high-end blue states out. Really expensive place to live, Alaska out. It's also super cold there and kind of unpleasant to most people, but that's out. If you're looking to not interact, which I'm guessing is your situation, with the general public much, like you're not going to be out on the beach, you're not going to be interacting with other people much. Is that correct? Like you don't want to be around the public?
I don't have any strong desire to be. Not like I'm opposed to it, but I don't think I would. I've been kind of hermit-like, so that wouldn't be unusual for me.
Okay, so what I would say, what I find super peaceful, is essentially farm-esque land that's on a mountain. That to me, and you can find some spot to rent that's away from people, that's on a mountain. That even if it's a small spot, or just a small house, or even like a cabiny kind of affair, that to me would be the ultimate life's peace, where I would be separated from the potential problems of everybody. I'm on a mountain, so I know who's traveling up and down the road, whether or not they should be there or not. And basically, I'm doing my own thing. That to me has significant weight. And if you're looking at that, some of your Tennessee kind of states, your Blue Mountain passes, stuff like that, that probably would have significant value to you because they're also cheap states to live in.
Yeah, I remember you once, when you said Hawaii was really great, and in one video you said Alaska, good luck.
Yeah.
Which made me feel that Alaska probably would not be good for CDRs.
Alaska is the hardest state in the union to go ahead and get disability benefits by far, hands down, without a doubt. It is the sledgehammer. It is the cleaver.
Any other really bad ones?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of them. The lowest percent passage rate states. If you just go to disabilityjudges.com, you'll see the whole list there. But none of them are as close as Alaska. Alaska is the bottom of the barrel. Hawaii is the top of the barrel.
And that would impact the people who are worrying about CDRs, not just the brand new people, right?
You got to remember something too. When you say like, hey, I'm worried about the CDR, you could get a very aggressive doctor that doesn't think you're disabled. And they could write up a report as part of their medical expert consultative examination that says you're not disabled. And that could happen in Hawaii. That could happen in very liberal areas. So you got to understand, being fearful of CDRs is a good fear. But no matter what state you're in, they could have a doctor that's very pro-SSA, anti-claimant. And if it's a very pro-SSA, anti-claimant situation, you're going to get a report that's going to hurt you. So, you got to remember, like, it's luck of the draw as to what doctor you get that's likely to support you. Now, if you're smart about it, though, you'll go ahead and when they require a CDR to occur, you'll get your doctor to go through the certification process so that they can use that diagnostic impression medical evidence to submit to the SSA as the medical expert for your particular CDR.
I would have to ask the doctor to get certified by who? The SSA?
Yeah, they have a little certification process, and it's not like they have like a just certifying the evidence one, and then they have like a full certifying that doctor within their rules and regulations. So kind of the point is with this whole thing, that's something you want to look into to get your doctor doing the CDR medical examination as opposed to the SSA's doctor who sees a ton of people really quickly, doesn't write a lot of notes, copy and paste reports. There's almost always something wrong in their report where they copy and pasted from the prior person they were working on.
Agreement about the going weight of the evidence rule with 2017 change. Wouldn't that mean that they could just send any existing person to their doctor, regardless of, for a CE exam, and have the SSA doctor just contradict your doctor?
I mean, they do all the time. That's the practical application. I mean, look, it's more complicated than that, but that's in practical application, seeing a doctor once as part of CDR that the SSA promotes, and it's always a specialist for the most part, and the weight of that evidence having potentially equivalent status compared to a doctor that you've seen multiple times that is your actual doctor, that's horrifying to me. That's Commissioner Saul. And that killed off a lot of opportunities for appeals counsel review for most claims that got denied at the administrative law judge level. So, but the point is this, I think this is incredibly important to remember. You are not being adjudicated under those traditional rules. You're being adjudicated under the rules of 2010. Which is prior to 2017, yeah.
That's very interesting.
I tell you what, let me go ahead and grab another caller, though, because we're already at 9:13. You have a wonderful, wonderful night, good sir, and you can always catch up with me at the next show, and we can always go through kind of the next set of questions. And excellent questions, though. Very good.
Sorry, it took up so much time. I apologize.
Yeah, no worries. Well, you have a wonderful, wonderful night, okay? Thank you. Bye-bye. Hi, this is Attorney Walter Hnot. We are live on YouTube. Remember to go ahead and mute your computer. Also, use a fake name. Would you like me to go ahead and answer a question, or would you like me to go ahead and run hearing questions with you?
I have a specific question.
Okay, just remember to mute your computer, because otherwise it has like feedback. Yep, perfect, awesome. So what's the question? How can I help you? Yeah.
Okay, I have a Rubik's Cube question for you.
Okay.
I was homeless with my daughter for about 3 years, and finally, because you can't find anything right now, and I've been bouncing around, and I sucked it up, and my mom was willing, as long as I paid rent, to let me stay with her until I could find a place. I am paying her. I'm renting out the basement, and I'm paying her $1,200 a month, but it includes everything, and then I get buy my own food and stuff myself for my daughter and I, and we prepare it separately, which is important. Now, they are doing the 1/3 reduction now for my daughter.
Sure.
And myself. So her SSI payments have gone down to $560 and change from $841, and they took $200. They said I'm receiving $200 worth of food or shelter. Well, I'm paying $1,200, and then I'm paying for my own food. So, and I've used my mom in the past and had to pay rent. They haven't done that. So is there a reason? I thought as long as I was paying my fair share, but when I called, they said my daughter is not paying her fair share.
So what you have to do is basically sign a loan agreement for both yourself and your daughter going forward. And what that means is that your mom will sign a loan agreement as the landlord, and you will sign a loan agreement, and your daughter will sign a loan agreement as the person who is renting from your mother. And what your mother can do with that loan agreement is she can enforce it down the line to go ahead and basically force you to pay it back, or she can forgive it. But since you are being loaned that room and you have to pay it back, even though she could one day forgive it, you then can have your benefits increased back up to the full 841 for both.
Can that be retroactive or no?
No, it can't. They get so cranky about that. Like you gotta sign it with modern day. If you email me,
Okay.
but keep in mind, like I'm driving a total of 23 hours tomorrow. So like just keep in mind, like tomorrow's
I've
gonna
done
be
this trip before. It's no fun.
yeah, it's because I got to go to Fort Lauderdale, drop off the dogs, drive back up to the Cocoa area, get all my stuff in the car, and then drive all the way up to New Jersey. So I'm gonna be a sad, frumpy Cabbage Patch. I'm gonna be I'm gonna be 10. Yeah, I'm gonna be like 2 nuggets short of a full box. But yeah, so
I've done a U-Haul by myself with
oh,
Florida and
U-Hauls.
New Hampshire, so that's no fun.
Those are the worst to drive. Like people don't realize how crappy those trucks are compared to like like a nice.
And my car towing on the back of the
Oh my God, that's the
especially for New
worst.
York.
Yeah, they don't even turn well. Like you always feel it lagging and pulling a little bit around the turns.
Yeah.
Just email me.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you sent me a loan agreement
Oh, cool.
a couple of weeks back. But so I can do that like as of July. I could put, and what do I put the loan agreement amount for?
Well, you write it down.
What
Like
I'm paying?
yeah,
Or-
what you remember you split it between her and your daughter and you. So basically you would you essentially
what
would be.
words need to be? Yeah, like what words actually need to be?
Oh.
Because they're really picky about how it's.
Well, that's the cool thing about that loan agreement. It literally, you just write in, like it has all the categories and you just write in the amounts of what you're being given. And so long as it's less than what your benefits are, right, of what you receive on a monthly basis, then you're okay. And, kind of the point
So then
there.
me actually paying what is less than my benefits are doesn't apply.
Do you mean in like an ethical sense of
Like I'm paying her $1,200 a month. Why isn't that good enough in their eyes?
Well, I mean, okay. So technically then they should increase your benefits to 841. But I'm guessing what they're thinking realistically is that you're not actually, did you actually provide proof of the transfer of funds into your mother's account?
No, they didn't ask for that.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, that's the problem. Like if they're not going through the ritual of finding out, bank account to bank account, then they probably don't believe you. They just applied the 1/3 reduction rule or the in-kind support and maintenance rule, and they're hitting you with that. So kind of the bottom line is
really they can just do that because
they do it. They're not supposed to, but it's the SSA. They can do what they want. It's they do it, and then people have to play.
And meanwhile, daughter, like that's like not fair that they're allowed to just.
Oh well, so this person.
They didn't even contact my mom either to make sure to verify with her, because my stepfather lives there too, and he gets retirement, and he pays $600 a month, and their bills are like $24. We all pay like $6 each, even my, and I have to pay that to be able to stay there. So you're saying if I do the loan agreement, I can say I was paying $1,200 or whatever, because that's what I told them last month, and that I can say month it's just a loan agreement. They're not going to get suspect about that.
No, you can start a loan agreement and legally sign a loan agreement contract with your mom. I mean, that's the way you should have done it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I mean, they can be, they can, but that defeats the in-kind support and maintenance rule.
Okay. And then my other question is, I got approved for disabled little child benefits in May, and I got my first payment on June 1st.
Okay.
And then they were suspended like 2 weeks later when I looked at it. And I'm not sure why they're suspended. I assume it's because my father's working or something, because his other daughters, they split up and told me are suspended as well. But from when I applied for the benefit, I know when they had told me that they can be retroactive, but since were other people collect records, they couldn't pay me. I got a letter saying that they couldn't pay me. It was like a couple bucks or something, $11 or something like that they were able to pay me retro. But then I received at the end of June a thing saying overpayment for $4,135. And it says if that's all it was. So then I went further and I contacted the Northeastern Service Center because I wanted more details of what it was, because I hadn't worked or anything. So they sent me what I received and what I should have received and all these different amounts. And the only payment I got was $634 on June 1st of this first month that I was eligible for approval. Now, this thing that they sent me, the amounts are exactly what they would have been had I been getting the disabled adult child benefit. So they're acting like I was paid those amounts all the way back to November of 2020. And they're trying to come after me for that money when they didn't give me back payments for that. So I tried to explain that to them on the phone, and they said I have to, and I went on my online account, and it shows the amount that they're saying I should have received in this letter is the amount that they paid me. But when I call, they say that they're not showing that on their end. My bank statements reflect that those are the amounts I received, and they're just giving me a hard time about that. How should I go about dealing with that? Because how can they make that kind of an error?
So to simplify, and keep in mind, I was typing there a little bit, you got an overpayment letter for back pay that you did not receive to your bank account, but they claim that they sent out.
Yes.
Okay.
When I went back and looked at the amount, it's the amount that I would have been getting for those years had I been getting the disabled adult child benefits, but I wasn't, because I wasn't approved till May, and they said I couldn't retro it because of too many people on one person's account.
Okay, so
I can send it to you if that would be easier, probably.
Yeah. Now, just keep in mind, everybody that's watching, so starting Friday for 3 weeks, I'm going to be in New Jersey, which means from 9 to 5 p.m. I'm going to work like a regular attorney. Like I'm going to do what a regular, yeah, as opposed to like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. And then basically after 5, I go ahead and work out on the farm. But the thing is, my ability to get emails and respond, there's one guy who sent me this awesome email write-up, and he's got these beautiful dogs and these pictures in it, but it was like a huge write-up, and I just haven't gotten to it yet. I really want to get to it. I just haven't gotten to it yet. But the thing is, like, send it to me, but it might take me until I get back from New Jersey to actually address it or look at it. But you can always call in next Thursday, and then we can always kind of go through it.
Okay.
Yeah. Perfect.
But do you know why they would, why their records would reflect that when it's like, I mean, like,
they screw up financially.
It's really frustrating to me. It's just, I mean, I know it's the federal government. They don't make mistakes, but they
do. They make mistakes all the time. They lost this. There was
mistakes. They just don't own them.
There was a claim where they messed up and paid me twice for one claimant. So I sent them the checks to pay them back, or at least what I thought I owed to begin with from my accounting.
Mm-hmm.
They lost 2 checks. One of them they ultimately found at the local field office and then sent it back to me. And then they tried to process one of my checks. It came back and it said insufficient funds. But then I showed them what the funds were in the account, which it was like way above what the check was for.
Yeah.
And so I was like, look,
put a check out there if it didn't have the funds.
Right. I was like, guys, you gotta, you know what I mean? You gotta actually put this thing through. So I was either 4 or 5 checks that I had to send out until finally the 6th or 7th check that they finally just did it properly. And they make mistakes financially all the time. And that's probably the weakest arena at the Social Security Administration is when they're paying out funds, especially for SSI claims to the attorney. They'll usually pay the claimant all the funds, and then we have to go through this whole harangue. So kind of the bottom line is, no, they make mistakes financially more than any other mistake when it comes to processing these claims. Yeah.
Okay. And just like, you know how ridiculous the housing market and finding a place to rent and stuff is right now. Like, I was homeless and it was like horrible with my child, you know, like having to bounce around and just make sure we were safe and keep a roof over our head.
Right.
And it's just like, they're allowed to just like make mistakes. And like, if I was actually in a place right now and it wasn't my like, I would be out on my ass already right now, because I would have missed my rent this month, you know, like, and then it took me, you know, how long is it going to take to find another place? Like, that's not fair that they're allowed to just do that.
Well, it's not an allowed.
Sort of like,
yeah, it's not so much an allowed to, like, they're not allowed to screw up and then not fix it. They have to fix it. But they screw up because you got to remember.
We have to jump through all these hoops to get them to fix it. And it's like, I don't have a vehicle. I don't, like, you know, like we don't have people that have disabilities. We don't have access to like just being able to go and, oh, I'll spend $10 to fax this so that they get it right away. Like, you know, it's not an option for a lot of us.
The counter argument that they have is, how would it feel if they weren't there at all? Like if the SSA didn't exist? That's their counter argument, which is very strong.
It would feel about the same as it does now, because.
Well, no, because you get benefits every month, you know, and you get health insurance every month. But,
yeah.
You know, but the point is, look, here's the thing. The Social Security Administration is a government agency, and government agencies are usually about 6 times less efficient than private industry. But we can't have this system or the funding of it or all that stuff in the private industry, because we need to have these trust funds backed by the federal government. Because if this ends up in some, you know, private, you know, invest equity, whatever, you know, you could have a Ponzi scheme and everybody could lose their money that they put in. So you need to have them accountable, even though the government tends to, let's just be honest about it, when it comes to lower level employees, they tend to not be very educated in the subject, even though they're highly trained. And as a result of that, you end up with a lot of weird things that happen.
They train them to be able they train them to deal with people with like mental health issues and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They have training. They have a lot of training programs. Yeah, for sure.
That's insane. Because I've never come across someone that actually understood that worked at the SSA.
Well, a lot of people that work at the SSA end up having mental issues like anxiety, depression, panic attacks, because they have to deal with people with mental issues. Like literally me at night, from doing this for 15 years through my firm and 2 other firms, sometimes I have nightmares about the people, of what they did or who I'm representing. You know, because I represent literally the people that they make movies about. I represent some of those people. The people that basically are the most horrific, or, you know, that aspect, or there hasn't been a discovery where they figured out what they did. I represent those people. So you got to understand, like, you know, and I see it all. It's not just crim law. Like I see the financial, I see the medical, I see the criminal, I see the whole rainbow of what happened. And, you know, the big thing is this, like, those who are disabled are probably one of the toughest groups to interact with, because they don't have funds, which means they're always in emergency mode. They're usually hostile, because they're trying to get something done that they don't understand why it's not working. They're dealing with an agency that realistically is tired of putting up with this aggressiveness and people just, you know, demanding a check but not understanding where they are, what the elements are, stuff like that. So the reality of it is the SSA, in my opinion, to begin fixing that, and this is by no stretch a fix, but to begin fixing that would be to have a lot of instructional videos on their YouTube channel. And their YouTube channel is, it's everybody knows it's a total failure. It's just a total failure. Yeah. And I made videos, for the commissioner to take a look at. I don't know if she saw them, but I know they make it up the grapevine to her level.
On their YouTube channel.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the ironic thing is I applied to be a judge, but I submitted it in paper form, because by the time I went to go submit it, It was closed. 1,000 people applied to be a judge. 1,000 attorneys applied to be a judge, and the thing closed in less than 24 hours. So I sent my answers in paper form, then I never heard back from them. But the point is this.
Don't give up on that, because you're the type of people that we need in there doing.
Yeah, but you got to remember equity and inclusion. Like, I'm a white male, like that's, and I don't speak Spanish. I'm not disabled other than my hand. And basically I'm not a veteran. So I got a lot of, X marks on me because of that. But, the point is this, like, there's something you have to keep in mind too. The SSA looks for, in some of their highest level positions, the cream of the crop, the absolute cream of the crop. A lot of their judges, look, there are some judges out there where I know they're brighter than me. And I'm not a low-level intelligence individual by any standard. I know I'm above the norm standard. But there are judges out there where I sit back and go like, oh, damn, they caught me off guard. We have.
I saw that you applied, though, and
yeah,
you don't think that you applied. I was thinking to myself, don't you think maybe a little bit that they hire judges and stuff like that they kind of think are going to be more aggressive on people and are going to pass through less people?
Yeah, absolutely. The training, just so you know, the training of the newer, younger judges is that they're now training all the ALJs to begin the hearing after they communicate with the attorney about, the household, cleanup items. After you get past that part, then you go to the judge automatically going into the IRS earnings. What did you do? Were you a supervisor, manager, hire, fire, handle payroll? What were your earnings? Then they go into SGA analysis. Then they go into household activities. So they have a specific structured approach, which is very pro-SSA, anti-claimant in the structure in which they ask questions. And as a result of that, because they're starting now with almost all hearings being their questioning, and then the attorney cross-examines, it doesn't allow the claimant to have their attorney using the questions that they're accustomed to. So let me give you an example. I always ask, which I think is the best overall version of it, what are the top 5 most severe disabling medical conditions that you have? But a lot of the judges will say, why do you feel that you deserve disability benefits? Why do you feel that you can't work anymore? Why do you feel that your impairments limit your ability to do a full-time job? Why do you feel that you can't continue to work going into the future with this medical treatment? Like, those are all different ways of asking a very similar question. And if a claimant is not accustomed to that question and they hear it and they've got mental impairments, they're not going to answer it well. So it's, look.
And that's what you do with your clients, especially with mental health issues that don't have good memory and stuff like that and become hostile. They're prepared for how you're going to set it up for them, and you prepare that so that they're not caught off guard and stuff. So that's not fair. That's not actually taking people's disability into account doing the trial.
Well, one of the tough things about, and it's specifically for me, the toughest claimants that I find are younger females with mental impairments, because they're very quick to become hyper-aggressive against me because I'm a younger individual. Older individuals don't do that to me, but younger individuals, specifically females, something about me questioning them quickly or in a tough manner or with a really deep question or in a gotcha question, one of those like, you said, but didn't this mean, one of those types. I've noticed they trigger quickly. And then the problem is and here's what's important.
They shut down.
Yeah, exactly. They're off track. And then how do you get them back on track? And I've had the worst success with younger females with that. I have certain strategies that I use. I guess I could tell you what those are. Strategy number 1 is to basically create empty space. Empty space is where I'm not talking, the judge isn't talking, nobody's talking, they're just sitting there. And if you create enough empty space, their brain resets, and then you get another shot.
Yeah.
Another thing is to not acknowledge what's going on to them in a way that you're trying to control them, like saying, calm down, you'll be fine if you just calm down. What you do is you say, I'm going to take a moment myself and just think about what I want my next question to be. And when you do that, you pull completely away from, putting anything on top of their head to hold them down. Now you've stepped away from them and said, well, let me take a moment and figure out what I want to do. And then that calms them down because they're still in control, even if they're losing control. Another thing I do.
That's a good.
Yeah. Another thing I do is I go ahead and pull away full eye contact. So eyes are not on them at all. I change my body movement to physically face a different direction of the room, usually the judge, which lets the judge know I want to let the claimant just have a moment. And then basically,
You feel threatened and you're about to shut down. I need to.
right.
Cheers.
And then usually what I'll do if I'm in the physical room, I will look at the person who's essentially doing the typing, right? Your whatchamacallit, your clerk of the judge. And I'll say, I just need a moment to think about how I want to approach my next question. Because, sometimes attorneys, we don't know what our next question is going to be. I always do because I've done this for a long time, but an approach I use is basically it's a quasi lie. I'm lying and saying I need a moment for myself to figure out what I want to ask. But what I'm really doing is I'm saying I want to waste a little bit of time.
Now, you have people just completely flip out.
Oh yeah. I've had people lose control.
Yeah.
I've had to.
Is that an automatic? You're denied. Is that an automatic?
No.
Come back with that person.
I've had people lose it mentally in there. I had one guy almost stab the judge with the pen. We had to basically remove the pen from his hand.
I believe it.
I had one lady I had to force feed her seizure medication to. I had one lady who passed out and almost died. There's one day when I'm not an attorney in this field, maybe I'll be able to write a book about it or something. Obviously anonymous stuff, but I've seen it all. I'm one of the few attorneys who was quarantined at the Social Security Hearing Office, OHO. Back then it was ODAR. Because I brought a claimant in with a highly infectious disease and didn't realize it until I got the most recent medical evidence in my hand that day. And literally that day I realized I just brought somebody with something that could essentially kill somebody else, like worse than COVID. So
and you're still
but
doing it.
Yeah, but I grew up on a farm, so it's hard to kill me. Yeah, so
One quick question. I'm doing a CDR for my daughter right now, and I'm filling out the paperwork for the functioning or whatever, like the 9 to 12. And she's nonverbal to a degree.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't communicate. Like I can understand I'm her mother, so of course I'm going to be able to. But she's nonverbal to other people for the most part.
Yeah.
Now it asks, can you read? Can you read English? Can you speak English? And I don't know whether to put yes or no.
Oh.
Yeah, she can say a few words. Yeah, she can write her own name, but she's not going to be able to understand and hold a conversation with someone at all.
Yeah, so you check
simple sentences.
Yeah, for that one, and the only way to do that one is you check yes and no, and then put C remarks under it, and then you go to the last page of the form and put in the remarks why she can't communicate with others, when she started to do that, what the medical professionals are saying about what triggers her to pull back. And then basically another thing with kids, and man, kids that won't communicate are some of the hardest claims that I have, because it takes away any superpower of communicating to them to win the claim. It takes it completely away because they just shut off. But one thing to talk about is some kids, when interacting with different people, say different things, or they have more words, or they have different types of personalities. So usually what that is an undiagnosed personality disorder. And that's because they have one personality with some people and another personality with another person. So one thing you want to check in with your medical professional about, and they never diagnose this, and they should, is that there's probably an underlying personality disorder where they're different people, or they're a different person to different people.
Even though it's neurological, it can still be.
Oh yeah, sure. It could still be. Yeah, even though it's neuro, it could still be a 12.0 man. Yeah, for sure.
I just don't want, because it's true. She does. Sometimes she'll just shock you, and someone will be around, and she just has just out a full sentence. Where does that come from? But I don't want to write on the form and then have her go see a doctor, that's their doctor, and be talking, and and I'm thinking I'm lying. So I just wanted to check with that.
Right.
So all right. So then the loan agreement, I could just fill in amounts that are under what we make, and they should bump us back up to the full amount.
Yeah, just make sure you put a current date on it. Otherwise, they'll they'll invalidate it, and then you got to do a new one. Just
Yeah.
make sure, because you can't backdate those things. In the very beginning, we were all doing a backdate to what was the original agreement. That was an oral agreement, blah, blah, blah. But you just really got to bite the bullet. And from this date forward, that's the spiel. Yeah.
Okay. And then there's no way for me to get my benefits for the month I was paying $1,200, because they're trying to get that money back and making me pay it back now.
So for that one, I would send me an email. Yeah, I mean, you're fighting an overpayment. The first thing I would do is submit a 561 and a 632 form and begin the process. I mean, how much are we talking about? How much? I mean, and you didn't actually receive these funds, right?
No, that's my DAC benefits that I didn't receive.
Okay, gotcha.
This is the SSI and SSDI for me and my daughter. Yeah, it's well, I told them it was June 1st that we started living here, but for some reason they have it put down as January 1st. So they're coming after me for January 1st up through. So it's like $1,000 or something like that each. But that's money that, as you know, we can't really afford to let go.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean,
so I'm filling out the over thing. Do those get approved usually, or is it?
Yeah, no, that's a valid I wrote that literally, like, they came out with that rule, and then I was vacationing / working. I actually worked the whole time. That's how every vacation I've had is. It's always work. Like,
that is vacation to you.
Yeah, it is. It's and I don't know if you can tell, but I'm 36 years old, and I'm showing aging signs of like a 45 to 50-year-old.
I've been wondering how old you were, but I couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah. So I'm 36.
I'm 37. I was like, he looks like he's about my age. But
Yeah. Basically, yeah, but it's one of those things where that is fully compliant. It's multi-state.
Okay.
So you are good for loan agreement procedures and requirements for the feds in any state. Okay. Just make sure you fill it out completely, because if you miss one of those numbers, then it doesn't work. Yeah.
Okay. And they like, I'm surprised they're even doing this with like the state of the union and all,
Like a Biden thing? Yeah, I mean, look.
Like, I can't believe they're even coming after people for overpayments right now, trying to take garnish 10% of my, like they wanted the whole $4,000 that I never got. Like, they were like, just send a check, and oh yeah, that was an option.
You got to understand, from my perspective, even if we had to switch over to Trump or something, I hope he keeps Commissioner Kijikazi, because she's doing the things that Saul didn't pick up the ball and move forward, and she's getting them done. So as an agency leader, I'm happy, and I'm not an easily appeased person, but I'm happy. She did a lot of the things that Commissioner Saul, some of the things he snubbed and he just didn't want to do them. Working with the different vocational groups when it comes to the payment systems, that people were part of, these unions. So you gotta understand, she's pulling it back together, but you got to remember, and you got to remember too, she's not President Biden. President Biden isn't Commissioner Kijikazi. Commissioner Kijikazi is trying to, within the restrictions of her agency, achieve all the things that need to be fixed to make this thing work more smoothly. But you got to remember, she's limited. She can't make law, So it's one of those things where, I mean, she can do SSR, but it's one of these things where, she could. But the point is, it's one of those things where she does not have the power of President Biden's pen to do an executive order that literally changes the face of America. She doesn't have that power. So
the only way that can happen is if Congress makes a change for us.
Yeah, really tiny.
If the Senate changes over.
Yeah, really tiny things they can do. I mean, they can even do some medium to big things, but when it's when we
letting us be able to work on SSI and not be penalized so harshly, they can't do stuff like that, right?
They would need it depends on how big of a swap that would be, but they would need a bill that passes into law.
Because with Social Security being obsolete, they're saying, and down the road, you think they'd be trying to enact some sort of something to let us be able to work, so that we can, when it's obsolete and it's we're not sitting around,
You gotta understand,
which
the system was created with the idea of SSI benefits being the bottom barrel last line. Like, if there's a line of soldiers, the first 20 lines were taken out, and then there's one last line, and that's SSI. And so what you have to understand is that at the end of the day, and I think this is incredibly important, SSI was designed to keep people in the bottom because they, began their journey and stayed at the bottom of the financial aspect of America. They didn't pay into the system. And they haven't raised this $2,000 bank account limit. They haven't raised the whole $85 first 60 plus 65 plus 20 rule. So, it's just one of those things where, look, if it were me and I were the president, I would find any effing way possible to get every effing person working, whether it's part-time, an hour a week, full-time, overtime. I would get every effing person working. And here's why. All of this.
So many people that want to work.
Yeah.
Scared to. That's not.
I know. Look, and once again, that could all be fixed by doing a lot of informational videos on the YouTube channel, sending out more pamphlets to people on how the system works, the basics, the structural basics of what the elements are, having a group at the SSA where their sole function is just basically legal advice on basics. Like they don't, they're not supposed to give legal advice at the SSA, obviously, but the reality is they need a team there that can at least give the basics so that they can then say, look, this is complicated, go get an attorney, or, you have these options. They don't have that.
And why don't they? Why do you think they don't? They don't.
Because they're not supposed to be giving legal advice because they can get sued.
No, for like the YouTube, but the YouTube, they could do a lot more with that, and they don't. Why do you think that is?
So in my, oh God, why don't they make the YouTube a priority? I don't know.
Educating people about benefits that they can get, and then they'd end up getting more claimants or something. Like it just feels like they're constantly out to get the people that need the help the most.
The VA has a really good YouTube channel. It's not amazing, but it's like a good start towards something that could be incredible. The SSA, I came out with like 15 categories of types of videos, and then 15 different types of hosts. Yeah, and then 100 different or 200 types of videos that they could go ahead and do on their YouTube channel. The reality is,
the formula.
Yeah, but that was the point. Like I genuinely want her to succeed. Like I genuinely want Commissioner Kijikazi to kick ass. Like, look, if Commissioner Saul were in, I would want him to succeed too, but it would have been a little bit more of an uphill battle. But the reality is, like, she's our point person that reports directly to the president. And as the point person for increasing benefits, reducing restrictions, increasing the likelihood of people working to some degree without being punished, increasing longevity of the program's existence by having financial solvency, these are things that some of them are above her station and require Congress to interact. But those smaller things, and even though they're not really small, they're huge, those smaller things she is doing. So I stand back and I say, no complaints. It takes time and she's kicking ass. So help her out. That's how I help. Like, I'm the most viewed disability attorney on YouTube. I'm the most subscribed to disability attorney on YouTube. The least thing I can do is give whatever unique knowledge I have and slide it across the table to her and say, imagine what the SSA's YouTube channel could be. Imagine how instructional and tutorials and how you could basically create a forum that is what people really want. People don't want to have to go to the ssa.gov website and figure out what the elements are. They want cool tutorials that have cool animations that break it down. That's what they want. That's, that to me, that's worth its weight in gold, because that is how you convince people what's going on with their benefits, whether the SSA made a correct maneuver and followed policy or made an incorrect maneuver and screwed up. And so
and it makes people, when they go into the office, kind of know what they're due, entitled to, and not just like back down and let what they say go. So I'm sure there's people that do that. They say this is what it is, and the SSA is actually wrong, and then they just say, oh, well, I guess I'm screwed, and end up not getting what they're actually due. And that's not right, because not everyone has the capacity to be able to understand.
So here's my thing. If you look at the fundamental of human beings, And you can look at it many ways. You can look at what you're saying, which is the basic understanding of the Social Security's language of benefits, right? That's what it is. It's a language of benefits. You either know what the sentence has in it, you can understand the words, you can understand the full complexity of the sentence because you can speak it, and therefore you can learn it and understand it. Most people don't have that. And they don't have that not because they don't have the capacity to understand it. If you make fun, I mean, look at kids, look at YouTube and kids, all these shark videos and these sing-along videos. I mean, look at how effective that is. Adults are not different from that. Why do you think people listen to music? It's the same reason kids learn from songs that teach them their ABCs. So from my perspective, there's a lot of amazing tools that we could use to teach adults about what their agency provides them. In addition to that, I will make a final comment here, and then I got to call my security expert, but here's the thing. People know what benefits exist at the SSA about as much as they know what freedoms they have that are given to them through the Constitution, which is a very limited amount of knowledge. And to me, that is the greatest sin a citizen could have, not knowing what freedoms you have and what the agencies offer. And to me, there's a lot of things that can be done to fix that. And I am not by any stretch saying, Commissioner Kijikazi, where are you on this? Because she's done amazing stuff. Sophomore, thank you for the $4.99 donation. Thank you for the prior donation as well. I really appreciate it. My thing with this is, look, Commissioner Kijikazi is probably working away on setting that stuff up. I know some of my videos get forwarded up to that division at the SSA because I know somebody that knows them at that level.
They know of you.
So the bottom line is, I'm hoping any of this knowledge, any of this, assistance is helpful. Will it ever, to some degree, benefit me? Who gives a shit? Will it benefit the people applying?
That's not why you're doing it.
Yeah, no, trust me. I could be sitting on the couch right now with my dogs watching, I have HBO Max.
Cream and bacon.
Yeah, I've got Netflix and I've got Disney Plus. I could be doing any one of those. I literally think about that. I have to wake up tomorrow at 5 a.m. to drive down to Fort Lauderdale. I could be sleeping right now. So, you just have to understand, like, I'm not saying, hey, Commissioner Kijikazi, where are you on this? What I'm saying is, when you're ready, here's a step up the ladder. Watch out for these chutes that you could slide down. But here's how I did it. Here's how I approach it. Because if you don't do this, look, you could take every single person at the Social Security Administration, every single one of them with doctorates in social media, and they would still not have the experience that I have with it. And to be realistic, even if they know how to do one particular piece of it, very few people. And think about this too. I didn't become well known on here because I brought on celebrities. Like Joe Rogan's kind of gig where he brings on celebrity, et cetera, and does these amazing, chats and topics and whatever. And then he asks all these questions. I didn't do that because I don't have the money to bring.
People usually aren't as in tune with the facts as they should be. So.
Oh, true. And that's part of the show, But the way I look at it is, people came to watch me because what I offered was what the SSA. Oh, thank you, madam. Thank you. So what I gave to the community was a way to more likely succeed in receiving what is basically life or death money. A lot of people don't think about that, but this money,
it is.
Like the way and this is a weird way to think about it, but if you think about pirate ships, right? And you think about the lower level pirates on a pirate ship, when they went and, went out to go get money, right? It was out of pure desperation. They had no other shot. They could not, for some reason, work for a regular ship, right? They were exiled from the community's vocational pool, getting a job. And so these pirates had to find some other way to survive. To me, that is the level of desperateness. Going on a boat into the middle of the sea, miserable, without food half the time, to have a shot at having a check every month and healthcare for the rest of their life. To me, that's a low-level pirate on a pirate ship struggling to survive. And I know people don't really look at it that way, but to me, if you go look up how pirates lived, they lived horribly until they became very wealthy. And pirates, much like the CIA and other specialty groups, you might be doing well today, but if you fall in disfavor with the organization, you do very poorly.
Exactly.
Right. And that's kind of to some degree, like, that's, to me, these overpayments to some degree, like when they send out a $50,000 overpayment, because, basically, and it's truly, it could be something the claimant did wrong or they should have known, or it could be something the claimant had no idea, and they're going to really get that money from that claimant. I'm sitting back and I'm just thinking, like, I don't know, we're taking a stressed person that's relying on this for life or death, and we're basically saying to them, and in many cases, the SSA should have known. Many cases I look at, I'm like, well, the SSA should have known this. They should have seen it in the IRS earnings. But in many cases, I look at it and I think to myself, why doesn't the SSA have better systems in place to red flag these and review them so that they don't end up being 50 grand? Like
it's life or death to me. That's
so
a changing amount of money to anyone. I would,
right.
But, I'll let you go because I know you got your other stuff to do. And you said on one of your shows that there was something you could say if you were dealing with a SSA employee that was being rude or mistreating you.
Yeah.
So that they were taken off your case. And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So the way it works is
what do you have to say?
you notify the person you're speaking to that you no longer feel comfortable with their capacity to assist you and that you need to speak with a supervisor. They'll swap you up to a supervisor. Then a manager is above that. Then a general manager / regional manager. But if those managers aren't always available, what you should reach out to is the regional field office to state your claim and be ready to.
Because I've asked to speak to a supervisor before, and they've told me that they would not allow me to speak with a supervisor.
Yeah. So,
and then when I persisted, said the supervisor didn't want to speak with me.
Okay, so that's. I mean, you must have been screaming at them, but the point is, then you go to the regional field office. Really. Well, okay, so if you weren't, regional field office. That's the group that corrects the local FO. And remember, the local FOs, they have some of the least trained people, and there's a high turnover rate. There are some amazing people there that have been there a really long time, or they're into the training or whatever, but just to be very clear,
there's people that really want to help people, and then there's people that just a paycheck, which is fine. But
I got to be honest though, and I've talked with a lot of field office reps. The local field offices eat employees. Like literally, it eats the soul of those people having to work with the disabled who are always unhappy or something's going wrong or whatever. It just eats away at their souls, and that's why a lot of them quit. The money isn't great. They're dealing with hostile people. The hours aren't great. The electronic tools that they have usually fail. Their computer systems or fax systems.
If they have the paperless and the online accounts,
they're getting there.
All the notices that they send us go there. None of the notices except for the COLAs go to the online account. Why?
Yeah, and why not have an email system too? Why not have it be email? Why not save millions of dollars each year from how much mail they have to send out and all the trees they got to kill?
Yeah. I mean, I have like a whole forest that I could give them back if they wanted.
Yeah.
Insane.
So.
But, all right, so I just have to say that. And the regional field office, where would that be? How would I find out what the regional field office is?
So what you do is you type into the SSA Google, or you type into Google SSA regional field office, and then basically the regions will pop up. So like for Florida, Georgia's the regional field office. For other places, it's usually some other state. But the point is, you look at which state is closest to yours. You click on that particular state, and you see if your state is included in the states that regional office, basically oversees. And as a result of that, you'll usually get, the regional field office has like the people that were promoted up. So they're usually very good at what they do. Like they can fix things pretty darn quick, with the local field office as a result. They can also resource things from the POMs. They can also resource things from their general administrative books as to how it's supposed to be applied relatively quickly. So if you're looking for problem can't be fixed, regional field office. If they then can't fix it and it still continues, then you go to the Office of Inspector General.
The regional field office, is that like The 800 number?
No, well, I mean, they might have an 800
where
number.
the people that answer the 800 number, where are they on the level of?
They're even below the field office, because the 800 number is like, they can't do a bunch of stuff. So that's like first line of defense. Like Orlando's Gatlin Ave field office now has all their calls go to the 800 number, which is insane, but they're just so overloaded.
Yeah.
So like some field offices throughout the United States are so overloaded that basically you just go to the 800 number. But the 800 number is like 800 number, field office, regional field office, office of inspector general.
Okay. And like they have us have direct express cards. If you don't have a bank account, they just automatically give you a direct express card. I've been trying to call that number for like the past 2 months, and they just hang up on you. They say we're experiencing high volume and call back at another time. For like 2 months, like if that was your bank, like they couldn't just do that and hang up on you. Like this is your bank, like
that's insane. That's the difference between the government and private industry. But for Social Security, like social insurance programs, you usually want them to be backed by the federal government. And look, even look, or when you get adjudicated,
it's just scary. That's how the federal government runs.
Well, you've always known that, though. I mean, you've always known.
Yeah, I mean that inefficiently and like in your face, like
right.
It's just kind of scary.
Right. You've always, to some degree. So yeah. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I've been stressing out over this. I don't want to end up back out on the street. Like I feel like I was already robbed 3 years of my daughter's childhood, having to be on high alert 24/7. And now like with one paper they send, it's like everything falls apart again.
Yeah.
But thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. You
have a safe trip.
Perfect.
To New Jersey.
Yeah.
And New Hampshire if you ever want to Netflix and chill. So
there you go. So all right, but you have a wonderful night. I will catch you later, and we'll go from there. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye. So that was a really good call. Went through a lot of details and questions. I hear Sweetie behind me. Oh, she's right there. Sweetie is right. She was literally snoring right here. Oh, she's big. She's been eating way too much. She has been eating this dog is a full box of nuggets. All right. So I'm going to call. I don't know. And I missed a ton of calls tonight, and I took too much time on those calls. So hi, Sweetie. I know, Sweetie. So here's the deal, guys. I'm going to call the security. Next week, I'm going to try and limit it to just like one question per claimant, because otherwise I don't get to all of the calls. Let me see if I can get him on the phone. He might, already be doing something else. Hold on. Let me see if I can go ahead and let me see if I can get him on the phone. I kind of, let me see real quick.
Your call has.
All right. So when I call his phone number, it goes straight to voicemail. So he's probably asleep. But anyways, I'll try and get a security update. I am actually working on doing a security, whatchamacallit. I'm trying to create a security channel, because I wanted to go ahead and do some videos specifically on technologies. And I have some other cool stuff coming out. Like I'm going to be doing a video on certain objects like weed whackers, mowers, and how the disabled can use them more easily based off of different impairments, which there's just no videos on that I think are really in depth about technique with the weed whacker, where to hold it, types of straps, types of additions, type of harnesses, specialty shoes, all that stuff. So I want to, hopefully those will be good too. It'll be a product review for the disabled to utilize the product. Anyways, guys, I'm super tired. I have to wake up super early. I want to thank you so much for hanging out. Please remember to like, subscribe, and leave 5-star reviews. As always, I always appreciate the 5-star reviews, especially. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful night. And thank you for all the people that donated. I really appreciate it. It's incredibly helpful to me, because in restoring the family farm, I don't know if you guys realize this, but I'm paying all that money to basically restore it so that my parents get like another check from rented stalls, so that they have more money from that farm. Like I don't get any money from that farm. So anyways, I will catch you later. You have a wonderful night. And I don't know, stay good. I'll catch you later. Bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye.